Greetings everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm your host Captain Rye and today's YouTube video is another subscriber submitted replay. This one comes from SPR 101st and he is in his Bismark. The map is Neighbors and it's Domination Match Mode, but that's not going to come into play, at least not for his team. His team is mostly headed towards the sea cap point, which is standard fare for teams that spawn on that side of the map. However, if you look at the minimap there is one lone ship all the way off in the distance there, trying to rush towards the A cap point. Now, the only problem with that is, well, it's a sneaky destroyer, and it can certainly be done. I know I've done it before. It's all going to come down to whether or not that destroyer knows how to engage and disengage, when to fire, when to just harass, and when to turn around and bug the hell out of there. SPR is now finally detected. Enemy team has managed to capture the B cap point. His team is almost done capturing the C cap point, and the enemy team is also in the process of capping the A location. The friendly destroyer over there did decide that he wasn't going to push up and risk it, and has in fact disengaged from the situation and is just effectively running away, which is a fairly smart move to do when you're in a destroyer, especially when the enemy team has a destroyer advantage and it's domination match mode, which means if you're the only destroyer in a location, odds are you're probably going to run into two of the enemy destroyers. And dealing with one, yeah, that can be done. Dealing with two or some cruiser support, definitely not something to do. Now, the majority of the enemy team is circling up and over. They are, for the most part, heading towards the A cap point, but they are going to take that. So the enemy team now holds 2 cap zones, while SPR's team only holds 1, and that's going to start giving them the points advantage. To counteract this, SPR's team has to start engaging these targets and has to start doing massive amounts of damage and sink them. Finish them off and get them done. The enemy destroyer pops up here, who is within secondary range, and SPR clearly does have manual secondary build on his ship as these secondaries are flying out. He's taking shots in from a very angry looking smokescreen that's up there, but he's not really in a position to shoot at anything in that angry looking smokescreen. Of course, he gets a little distracted here and ends up basically pulling a monster and beaching himself right up on this island. Now, he could have turned and avoided this island a little while back, but if he had gone one way, he'd have run right into those torpedoes from the enemy Fiji, who's sitting in that smokescreen. And there, the enemy Fiji has popped up as his smokescreen starts to dissipate. Enemy New Mexico is sailing up there, who he's not necessarily giving a flat broadside, but it's a New Mexico versus a Bismark, a tier 8 versus a tier 6, and the New Mexico is going to take a lot of damage here. New Mexico player not playing it as well as he could, but of course the other problem is that the New Mexico is slow, and the Bismarck's long-range secondaries are just going to continuing to pummel this poor guy as they manage to set him on fire. And that's not going to be the first fire that gets set by his secondaries. Enemy Fiji pops up. It looks like he's trying to make a run for it. The enemy team manages to sink 2 friendly ships, a destroyer and a cruiser at this point. That Fiji is broadside on. These shots look good, but they're not enough to cause any kinds of citadel, which is really disappointing. Really unfortunate there. No citadel for you. Maybe you should consider providing more sacrifices to RNGesus. Fiji popping his smokescreen, so he's going to disappear. And as you can see, he's no longer targeted now that he's sitting in his smokescreen, and the shots just go everywhere. Don't manage to hit anything, of course. The Fiji does not stay still in his smokescreen, and he's more using it as a covering maneuver that he can sail away. Very low health ship over here, and I would honestly prioritize shooting that, except SPR is doing the same thing that I would do. He's noticing that this Fuso is on fire and burning down. And there's no reason to waste perfectly good shots if they're not going to get there before the guy dies due to fire. That's going to be the second kill for his team. And so they're equal on kills at the moment. But the enemy team still up on points because they have 2 of the cap zones, and they have had them for quite some time. Enemy Fiji trying to run away there. SPR takes more shots at him. If he can land a good shot at this kind of angle, regular penetration damage should kill him. But no, he only gets overpins and he only drops him just that little bit lower. That Fiji, though, hanging on by a thread. And I would love to see somebody finish him off right now. But SPR, he's got other problems to deal with. And one of those problems is this Alabama. Now, the Alabama versus the Bismarck. The Bismarck's got better armor, but the Alabama has bigger guns. The secondaries, of course, on the Bismarck, much better than the Alabama's, unless the Alabama gets really right up close, and then you've got to deal with that problem. Enemy destroyer, who's hiding back behind this island, is getting torpedoes off, and there's not much that SPR is going to be able to do about that other than just slow down. Fortunately for him, that island does prevent a number of those torpedoes from getting put into him at any greater angle. Enemy destroyer comes out from past the island. He quickly shifts his attention of his secondaries over to that destroyer, and that's what I would have done too. Get that destroyer flagged. Destroyer gets taken out by friendly ships, so that's good, but they also have lost yet another ship on their end. Taking advantage of the situation of not necessarily being shot at by everybody, he's going to go ahead and turn hard and away, exposing his stern to the Alabama. And that's going to be done simply so he can get his guns to bear on this Cleveland, as well as so he can avoid having to deal with a bow-on fight with that Alabama, because both of those ships in a bow-on fight have really strong bow armor with great armor angling. So a lot of those shots are going to bounce unless you fire into the superstructure. And of course, in this situation, in a bow-on versus bow-on fight, the Alabama is actually going to have a superior advantage. Not only does it have bigger guns, but it has more of them facing the front. Friendly destroyer here, being the MVP of the game, he's laying a smokescreen for SPR, and this is what I love to see destroyers do. SPR didn't even ask for that smokescreen. That destroyer just said, no, I've got it available, this guy's getting shot at, and he's still got a lot of health left. And he's been putting out consistent damage. So let's lay a smokescreen for him and make it so that the enemy team can't shoot at him for a while. Again, keeping your capital ships healthy longer, as well as keeping your own destroyer in the game as long as possible. Very good things at the end of the battles. Friendly team is finally starting to push up and capture the B cap point, but enemy team still has the ship's advantage. They're still up by 2, and they still have a huge destroyer advantage. They still have 4 of their destroyers in the game. Well, SPR's team only has 1. At this point, really, all the enemy team has to do to win is use their destroyers as harassing fire. Use them to flag around, stay concealed, and just spot enemy ships for their cruisers to harass, simultaneously just putting those torpedoes into the water just outside of detection range. They don't even have to get within detection range in order to cause problems, because ships like the Bismarck, you're always going to see them before they can see you if you are in a destroyer. Another enemy battleship here pushing up, and he's got himself in a bow-on situation, but he's also got himself a destroyer problem, as the destroyer on his team is, as the friendly destroyer is putting out torpedoes towards him. Now, that Cleveland in the back also being a consistent problem, as he's putting out consistent firepower. And at this point, the friendly destroyer really just needs to drop off detectability and run away as quickly as possible. But he's got a destroyer problem of his own. However, enemy destroyer gets taken out, which probably means that the friendly destroyer has now dropped back into concealment because he's not shooting, so no one's going to be able to shoot at him anymore. Enemy battleship starts taking shots out at our hero here. And they do manage to hit, but they hit that belt armor, and it's nicely angled, so this isn't going to be too much of a problem. Enemy destroyer getting torpedoes out there, but they're going to miss by a long mile. And that enemy battleship is actually in range of secondaries, which means that they can continue to put rounds and light that guy on fire, just pecking away with those secondaries. It's like having a Nuremberg. Enemy destroyer, another enemy destroyer gets taken out there as he tries to get torpedoes away there. SPR takes shots at him, but of course his shots don't even reach there before the enemy destroyer gets taken out. Enemy team manages to take out yet another couple of ships, and now it's just down to 4 on his team. Enemy team still holds 2 of the cap points, and finally, our hero manages to secure his first kill of the game. And his first kill of the game comes after doing almost 100,000 damage, and this late in the matchup, almost over 10 minutes at this point. And of course, it's a close quarters expert on a battleship. Yeah, think about that one. And of course, we can really actually say that that was a good close quarters on a battleship, because look how many close quarters secondary hits he's managed to get. That's not going to be his first close quarters in this battle, by the way. There's going to be a lot more as the enemy team manages to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Enemy turrets pushing up over here, and there is, I believe, another enemy destroyer, one of them, who's back over there with that turrets, and they are headed to the sea cap point, and they're going to start capping. This is really bad for SPR's team, as they now no longer have any bases accumulating points, while the enemy team is almost over 700 points. This is how games quickly end up going in favor of the enemy team. They still have 2 destroyers, remember that. Although the friendly destroyer on his team still has a good chunk of his health left, and if he can stay alive, he can help stay in front of SPR, which is what he's doing. Put torpedoes into smoke screens, but also put himself further forward and spot those little pesky bastards as they come out of their smoke screen or from around islands, and give SPR an opportunity to avoid torpedoes. There's that enemy Fiji again, still alive somehow, some way. He's actually recovered a lot of health, and it would be really nice to finally finish him off. SPR's got him flagged for secondaries. He gets a couple of shots out there. They look kind of spread out, but it doesn't matter. He gets his only citadel of the game so far and takes out that Fiji, and that's going to be good news for the friendly destroyer. Enemy destroyer pops up there for a split second, and, you know, that could indicate there that he got a little too close in his torpedo run. So SPR's slamming on the brakes, slowing way down here, and yep, sure enough, there are those torpedoes coming in just as he expected them. So he's going to slow way down. It looks like he's going to eat one, and that's a little unfortunate. But it's right in the bow there. It's not too bad. It didn't detonate him, which is fortunate. Manages to secure a close quarters expert on that Cleveland, who unfortunately ran himself aground, as his team manages to capture the B cap point. Of course, the enemy team does have both, still has 2 cap points in C and A, and they haven't given up A. However, they're only down to a destroyer, 2 destroyers, and that turrets. And one of the destroyers has been spotted, and as long as he can be consistently lit up, preferably by the friendly destroyer here, that means that SPR's secondaries can just rip into him, because he is within secondary range, and the Bismarck secondary high volume of fire means that it's like, again, it's like having a Nuremberg strapped to the side of your ship. So they're just going to start ripping into this poor little destroyer. Not to mention his main battery guns, assuming they hit, can do a good amount of damage, assuming they hit. But of course, just as that destroyer pops his smoke screen, it doesn't matter. He gets taken out by friendly gunfire. And that just leaves the enemy turrets. Somehow, SPR's team has managed to effectively turn this battle around, being down pretty much the entire battle. Now, of course, the enemy team is still up on points, and they still have 2 cap points, which means they're gaining more points. That turrets has got a good amount of health left, and if he manages to survive the last 4 minutes, and that really is all he has to do, is survive, his team will win on points, and he will get himself a solo warrior medal. But he's got to deal with a Fuso that's directly behind him. More importantly, he has to deal with a destroyer that's directly in front of him that he can't see, as well as a Bismarck who's got just as much health as him. And he's got to give broadside to somebody, and it's going to be SPR in the Bismarck. That Tirpitz is ripping into that Fuso, though, but it's interesting that he's firing high explosive and he's not using his torpedoes. Not sure if those torpedoes have been knocked out, but that Fuso, surprisingly enough, is surviving. Now, that Fuso tried to go for a ram earlier, and it's actually kind of surprising that the Fuso was unable to ram him, because if he had managed to pull that off, the game would have ended a little bit ago. But hey, more damage for our hero, as his secondaries continue to blaze away at this Tirpitz. Friendly Fuso gets taken out. That Tirpitz is now nearly dead. Who's going to get the kill? Come on, that Tirpitz is on fire in multiple places. Secondaries out. And our hero manages to finish him off, securing himself a nice 171,000 damage done. 2 close quarters experts, a high caliber, and a Confederate. Not quite enough for a Kraken, though he gets 4 kills, and there were a few situations where he almost managed to secure that 5th kill. A little disappointing that you didn't, but still a very good battle and surprising come-from-behind win on your team's part. Good job to you, and good job to the Destroyer, who helped lay smoke and kept in front of you for spotting purposes, earning yourself 2,000 base XP, a very good score with your 4 kills. Anyway, that's it for today's video, folks. If you liked the video, hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button, leave a comment down below. If you'd like to get semi-regular channel news and updates, you can do so by liking and following me on Facebook. If you'd like to help support me, you can do so by going to my Patreon and supporting me there. Support will grant you access to some of my World of Warships replays and screenshots early. Any support level will get you access to those replays. If you've got a replay like this one that you'd like to see on my channel, you can send it to my email. And if you'd like to watch me play World of Warships live, among other games, Sundays at about 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, you can do so by liking and following me on Twitch. You can find the links for all of those in the video description down below. And as always, I'll see you next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.